So recently, it has been a lot in the news about Mundra port seizure 3,000 tons of heroin, which moved from what they call it, Bandar Abbas port in Iran. So there have been a lot of theories. I don't know. I don't venture into guessing what could be the reason, because DRI and NCB, my old colleagues, or like much younger colleagues from those agencies, are now working on that. So definitely they will find it. But one of those, what is in the open source, that probably some group from Afghanistan wanted to get rid of what they have. Because there is not only one group, there is not one Taliban. I have traveled, I went a few times during, like when there was so-called national government in Afghanistan. I went from 2012 to 2018, I went 3 times, various places, Kabul, Kandahar, Mazar-e-Sharif. You say there is a national government supported by international community, but when you are on the ground, when I landed in Kandahar, I was told from airport to UN office, on the side, and don't stop on the way, on the roadside. This is almost like Iraq. When I was in Iraq, same thing. So situation has not changed. So what it was, whether before Taliban or after Taliban, I will go through that few of the statistics, because that makes better sense to understand where we are heading. When I joined I was in CBI SP narcotics for 2 years, 93, 94. The very first thing you learn is that the main heroin supply comes from 2 parts, Golden Crescent and Golden Triangle. The Golden Triangle was Thailand, Burma, Laos. Now people call it Myanmar. But the more important was Golden Crescent, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran. And this region used to produce major heroin supply. And unfortunately, the acetic anhydride, which is required to make it into heroin from opium, is smuggled from India to Pakistan and then onwards to Afghanistan. So if we want to stop, I will come to that, if we really need to, that is where it can be cut down. So going from that, even before Taliban, few of the figures I tried to collect, I think somebody was saying lessons of history. So I will, before going into, I will say, if lessons of history teach us anything, it is that nobody learns lessons that history teaches us. It's not my quotation, but I memorize it. It is in one of my memory quotations. I don't know who said it. I don't know the author of that. So we never learn anything from history. And I think it was Major General Astana who said that in the US, they never thought that terrorism is a problem till 9/11 happened. I happened to be there that time. And way back in 1998 from Interpol, I made a presentation in that famous Ronald Reagan Center, where I was speaking on the misuse of Hawala alternative remittance system in financing crime, including terrorism. Nobody bothered. It was like people said, oh, excellent presentation. There were so many good slides, this, that. But that is all. When 9/11 happened, then they took out old records and then immediately they contacted me wherever you are and all that. So then by 9/11 commission. So this is what is the problem. People think it is not my problem. This has been discussed previously. I'm coming to my topic, but just wanted to, so that I don't forget this point, which was mentioned by General Astana. So they think it is not their problem. No, if any country which is supporting Taliban, they will see that after a few years or even few months, as Hans Jacob said, it has already started. So there is no reason that when it will be, it is already there. So this is what they will get, because when Soviet withdrew from Afghanistan, there was a conference by the Islamic groups in New York, where they said we have defeated one superpower, but the second superpower where we are sitting here has to be defeated. Nobody took notice of that. It is some madman, but how true it has come. Now coming to how much money we have spent on fighting war on drugs. I'm leaving terrorism for other experts. No, where Taliban has been getting all the money from that, they have moved from insurgency to no, seat of power. If we see, there was a recent statement by Special Inspector General of Afghanistan Reconstruction, John Sopko. I know I received that report in my previous, I used to get the reports before my retirement from UN, but this report I refer to, he said 80% of budget for Afghanistan was financed by US. Now US Treasury has frozen billions of dollars, like 9 billion figure was there. Despite this, it has not affected Taliban. Taliban is well funded based on drugs, extortion, timber trafficking, kidnapping schemes. And then there is more than one Taliban. USA spent more than $8 billion over last 15 years on efforts to deprive Taliban of their profits from opium and heroin trade. From poppy eradication to airstrikes and raids on suspected labs. If despite doing this, the Taliban was financed, then what will happen now when they are also in power? When they also have the Afghanistan National Bank under their control, when previously they were trying to get out of the FATF, Financial Action Task Force gray list. Pakistan is still on the gray list. But in 2014, Afghanistan was removed from that gray list. I will come to more details on that when I come to money laundering part. So, and another thing, UN Security Council was briefed by the Executive Director of UN Office on Drugs and Crime as recently as this year on 22nd June this year. And he said where Taliban has been collecting, that time, mind you, Taliban was not in the control in the country officially. They were not in Kabul or officially in control of other places. It reads, taxes on opium paid by poppy farmers, mostly to Taliban, were valued at $14.5 million in 2019. And taxes on more lucrative manufacturing of heroin generated 8 times higher revenue for them. And in 2020, area under poppy cultivation increased tremendously. And then the opium production, it says, was producing 11% of the Afghanistan GDP, all from the drugs. Add to that other activities, other criminal activities. Then opium poppy cultivation area in 2020, after increase of 37%, it went to 224,000 hectares. So it's a massive area despite crop destructions. And it produced something like 6,300 tons of heroin, which is 85% of the world production. So 85 to 90% they have been debating, that, but at least 80% definitely it is. And they did try to train counter-narcotics police, and they also established first anti-drug canine unit. But that unit was to start this year in November 2021. Now with the Taliban in power, will that unit start? And with that, all the army and police just giving them a walkover virtually. In the previous session, that issue was discussed. I won't go into that. So now with these people, that means all those efforts which UNODC was trying to put it in this year, they will be absolutely washed down the drain. They have, okay, before I go to money laundering, they have suggested few things, UNODC, that is very good in his same speech, he said, because he said addressing regional and global dimensions are essential to stop and disrupt, one, the flow of precursors to Afghanistan. As I said, without acetic anhydride, you cannot make heroin, because heroin is diacetyl morphine. So basically with opium, when they do, even some farmers, they can do crude way of that, becomes a little brownish color. And when it is more purified, during my CBI days in narcotics, we raided few of those laboratories in Bhavani, Mandi, and in MP and Rajasthan, some of those areas. So now UNODC says we have to stop or disrupt the flow of precursors to the Afghanistan, and then stop flow of opiates out of Afghanistan. So if we can stop them going out of Afghanistan, we are stopping at our borders. Like this Mundra port, it has been successful. In a way, it is stopping that. That is what the step it is doing. And then we need law enforcement and judicial cooperation. I have seen that cooperation, how it happens, because I was in Interpol for 4 years, and a lot of countries which do not talk to each other, but through Interpol, they were like talking, and we were able to assist them. And even if you see arms trafficking, I investigated few, just sorry for diversion, few seconds, for UN Security Council investigated arms trafficking networks. How can arms go from one country to another in aeroplane where aeroplane lands? You have to get end user certificate, you have to get a landing permission, flying over permission, how that is managed. So customs office role is also very important when it comes to that. Now the second part comes on money laundering. Traditionally, Taliban has always operated outside the banking channels. Hawala, when the Americans and some of the other Western world did not know what Hawala is, a very famous case, Choraria case in USA, the person, I'm sorry, I'm just remembering from my memory, so I do not remember which year with the citation of the case. Choraria, when he said that I was moving money through Hawala, the judge asked him in US, what is Hawala? And he explained the Hawala to the court in USA. So that is why when I joined Interpol, my first assignment was to produce some documentation on Hawala, because people were surprised what Hawala is. And in Afghanistan, even the central bank in some of the areas where there is no bank branch, they use a local Hawala operator to effect their own transactions. So with this, and now with Afghanistan having Taliban in control, so all the steps which Afghanistan central bank took, where because of FATF they established, because three conditions were there put by FATF to every country. If you want to get out of gray list, if you do not get and you do not do anything, of course you can gravitate towards blacklist. There are only two countries, North Korea and Iran. But gray list has it keeps on changing, some countries from Caribbean. I used to be attending these sessions of FATF from Interpol as in charge of money laundering branch. So we used to listen to their nonsense that we are doing this, that, so that FATF countries can decide to get them out. Pakistan could not succeed because they could not convince till today that to get out of the grey list. But Afghanistan in 2014 managed, because three conditions were criminalize money laundering. So they enacted an act which now under Sharia law will become redundant. Because if you put Sharia law, then your own legal provisions are redundant. Second, establish a system to trace terrorist money. Whether you trace or not is a different thing, but you have to have a system. And the third was track the cash flow going back and forth across the country's porous border. But Taliban has historically used money mules, physically carrying money from one place to another. And the best currency they use is US dollars. So there is no problem for them. Then they also established another FinTraka, which was Afghanistan's Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Center. It was established in 2006. So that will also become redundant. So obviously now with this current situation, all these, what Central Bank of Afghanistan can do, because they have to establish know your customer, which my friend Hans Jacob said they are issuing new passports. So where is your KYC will be of no value. Then keeping suspicious transaction will be of no value. I can go on and on, but I think to leave some time for the questions, I will hand it over back to you, Chair Sir, Air Vice Marshal Srivastava. Back to you. Thank you.